Councilmember Moss in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please note that our practice is to use the traditional Pledge of Allegiance, so we omit the words "under God."
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the city clerk please take the roll call?
Councilmember Barnes.
Here.
Councilmember Moss.
Present.
Councilmember Pilch.
Present.
Vice Mayor McQuaid. Here. Mayor Nason.
Here. We start off with ceremonial matters, and tonight we have a proclamation for March for Meals Month, which unfortunately our wonderful organization that takes care of this for us, they are, the representative came down sick today. So, but nevertheless, Vice Mayor McQuaid is going to read the proclamation, and we're going to send it along to them.
And I'm going to read it from here.
Sure.
City of Albany Proclamation in honor of March 2019 as the 17th Annual March for Meals Month. Whereas on March 22, 1972, President Richard Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 and established a national nutrition program for seniors 60 years and older. And whereas Meals on Wheels America established the March for Meals campaign in March 2002 to recognize the historic month, the importance of the Older Americans Act nutrition program, both congregate and home delivered, and raise awareness about the escalating problem of senior hunger in America. And whereas the 2019 observance of March for Meals celebrates 17 years of providing an opportunity to support Meals on Wheels programs that deliver vital and critical services by donating, volunteering, and raising awareness about senior hunger and isolation. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Alameda County have served our communities admirably for more than 30 years, providing nutritious meals to seniors throughout Alameda County and help seniors maintain their health and independence, thereby preventing unnecessary falls, hospitalizations, and/or premature institutionalization. And whereas Volunteers for Meals on Wheels programs in Alameda County are the backbone of the program, and they not only deliver nutritious meals to seniors and individuals with disabilities who are at significant risk of hunger and isolation, but also caring, concern, and attention to their welfare. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Alameda County provide a powerful socialization opportunity for millions of seniors to help combat loneliness and isolation, and whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Alameda County deserve recognition for the contributions they have made and will continue to make to local communities, our state, and our nation. Now, therefore, the Albany City Council does hereby proclaim March 2019 as the 17th Annual March for Meals Month and urges every citizen to take this month to honor Meals on Wheels of Alameda County and its programs, the seniors they serve, and the volunteers who care for them. Our recognition of and involvement in the National 2019 March for Meals can enrich our entire community and help combat senior hunger and isolation in America.
Thank you very much. I realized I misspoke when I said the organization that takes care of this. This is the group that advocates for March for Meals, but it's actually our senior center. Organizes this, recruits and trains and supervises volunteers. I understand we have in excess of 600 meals delivered on a monthly basis. We have more than 20 people receiving meals and about 10 volunteers. And I'd like to encourage people who might be who might hear about this to think about if there are people you know who should be contacting the Senior Center about this program. As the proclamation says, it's not only a matter of nutrition, but a matter of social support, and it's really a wonderful thing. Going on to our next proclamation, which is in honor of the Tibetan Tibetan National Uprising, the 60th anniversary. I'd like to call to the podium Mr. Tenzin Rangdal and his party, and Council Member Pete Moss is going to join you at the podium.
Okay. City of Albany proclamation in honor of the 60th anniversary of the Tibetan National Uprising. Whereas on March 10th, 2019, Californians, including Tibetan Americans residing in Albany and surrounding regions, will gather to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Tibetan National Uprising. And whereas the City of Albany has a diverse ethnic population, including Tibetan Americans who are concerned about human rights and freedom in the U.S. and throughout the world. And whereas on October 17th, 2007, His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal in recognition of his many enduring and outstanding contributions to peace, nonviolence, human rights, and religious understanding. And whereas the 2016 International Religious Freedom Report for China, published by the Department of State, stated in that the Tibet Autonomous Region and other Tibetan areas, authorities engaged in widespread interference in religious practices, especially in Tibetan Buddhist monasteries and nunneries. And whereas the 2016 country reports on human rights practices for China, published by the Department of State, stated, under the professed objectives of controlling border areas, maintaining social stability, combating separatism, and extracting natural resources, the government engaged in the severe repression of Tibet's unique religious, cultural, and linguistic heritage by, among other means, strictly curtailing the civil rights of the Tibetan population, including the freedoms of speech, religion, association, assembly, and movement. And whereas the United States has a long history of support to the Tibetan people, including the passage of the Tibetan Policy Act of 2002, signed into law on September 30th, 2002, and whereas the Albany City Council affirms the determination of the Tibetan people in Tibet and outside, including the Tibetan Americans, to retain their heritage, now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Albany City Council that March 10th, 2019, the 60th anniversary of the Tibetan National Uprising shall be officially recognized as Tibet Day. And be it further proclaimed that the City of Albany stands with the Tibetan people and their just, peaceful, and non-violent movement.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to offer this scarf.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Would like to make it free.
If you want to say something, please.
Yeah, my name is Tenzin Rangdal, and I'm the president of Tibetan Association of Northern California. I'm joined by a young board member. His name is Chamyang Tundup. He actually came from Tibet itself when he was very young, made an odious journey through Nepal, through mountainous, to get the freedom. To escape from the oppression from the Chinese. So as a Tibetan American and Tibetans living in Albany, as I've checked the population, it's around 18,600 in the city of Albany, and around 31% of the population is Asian. So I'm very proud to be this part of this diverse as well as rich and good number of Asians in this city. And as a Tibetan American and as a president of Tibetan Association, we are deeply concerned about what's happening inside Tibet. And it's been over 60 years that Tibetans inside Tibet are suffering under the Chinese oppression. And as a Tibetan and a citizens living in a free world, especially in this one of the largest and the strongest economy country in this planet, it's really important and moral responsibility to stand up for those injustices happening around the world, not only in Tibet. And it's also important that we should speak up whenever it's possible to actually to stand up and to raise our voice against the voiceless Tibetan. His Holiness the Dalai Lama always advocates for the peace, justice, and non-violence throughout the world. So we are very deeply grateful the mayor and the city council has extended their support towards Tibetan Americans living in Albany, as well as Tibetans inside Tibet. It sends a strong message. So with that, thank you so much, Tasha Dalek. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Earlier this evening, the City Council held a closed session in which it gave direction to staff. And we move on to the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted in one motion. By approval of the consent calendar, the staff recommendations will be adopted unless otherwise modified by the City Council. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member or a member of the audience requests removal of the items from the consent calendar. Does any council member wish to pull an item?
5.4 and 5.6, please.
And
Any others?
5.5.
So we have 5.4, 5.6, and 5.5. Why don't we start with, nothing, okay. Let's go to 5.4, and
I just
may
need,
we have a staff report,
I don't
please?
think we need a staff report. I simply need to recuse myself from this item. I am a member of Albany Rotary, and the gift is coming from Albany Rotary.
Okay. Let's move on to 5.5. Let's see, that was
That was myself, yeah.
Councilmember Pilch.
Right. I just wanted to point out, as I was perusing this item, it's a pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? It's an administrative item that is just a formality. But I did notice that in our agreement with Waste Management, we have negotiated apparently a senior discount, but no low-income discount. And in keeping with what we've done for our other fees and taxes, I think the next time this comes around, we ought to consider a low-income discount. That's all.
Thank you. 5.6, again, we don't need a staff report, do we?
No, I simply wanted to congratulate the Recreation Department for their winning these two awards. As a past recreation person, I can tell you they're not easily given out, and we're all very proud of you for winning. And I'm looking forward to dinner that night because I'm going to Sacramento with you.
I think we all join in our appreciation and congratulations. It's really quite wonderful.
I'll move
Right.
consent with the exception of item 5-4.
Second.
So we'll vote on all the item except 5.4.
Except 5.4.
Councilmember Barnes?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilch?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McQuay?
Yes.
Mayor Nason?
Yes. And we will need a roll call vote on 5.4.
Councilmember Barnes?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilch?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McQuay's recused, and Mayor Nason?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. We move on to good of the city. Good of the city is a time for persons desiring to address the city council on an item that is not on the agenda. Please note that city policy limits each speaker to 3 minutes. The Brown Act limits the council's ability to take and/or discuss items that are not on the agenda. Therefore, such items are normally referred to staff for comment or to a future agenda. Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, we do. Jack Kenny and Naomi Siegel. Neri Castillo.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm Jack Kenny, and this is Naomi Siegel. We're the organizers of the Film Fest. I think you know that. And it's March, so it's coming up again, the 9th annual Albany Film Fest. And I want to thank the council for your support and the city of Albany, especially the efforts of Jeremy Allen. We couldn't do it without him. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what's going to happen this year. It's bigger and better than ever. And I think you all got a copy of the advanced program that we handed out. So we're starting with Kids Matinee at the Community Center next Saturday in the afternoon. That's followed by 3 midweek evening shows at the Albany Twin, and each one has a theme. First one is on social justice, have some great films on that topic. Then we have an environment night, and that one is sponsored by East Bay Regional Park District. The next night, Thursday night, is a music night, and Save the Redwoods League is actually going to sponsor that. Friday at the Community Center, we have Noir and Noir. It's film noir with Pinot Noir, and the Recreation Department is hosting that, and that'll get everyone in the mood for the gala, which is going to be Saturday night at the Mechanics Bank. And then finally, we finish with the big show on Sunday, 6 separate shows of short films. And Naomi can tell you a little bit about some of the content that's going to be shown.
Hi, thank you. I think we have an especially diverse bunch of films this year. We've got both submitted films and curated films. And I think just from what Jack read, you can see there's music, there's ecology, there's environment, there's activism, and the short show just continues with that. We have one show of curated films called Art, Literature, Feminists. It features a short feature film about Ursula Le Guin and another one about a surrealist woman artist. And they're both, it's a wonderful little package of films. I think this is quite enjoyable and wonderful. Our shows on Sunday, the names are We Are Family, Living on Earth, Life on the Edge, Connections, and It Came from Albany, which is features filmmakers from Albany or with a connection to Albany. And I think there's something there for everyone. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of human-centered films. We don't think we got any films based on revenge or murder this year. It was only hopeful films for the future. So I hope you'll all come. Thank you.
What about double indemnity?
Pardon me?
Double indemnity.
Well, oh my goodness. Yes, and double indemnity. For balance, yeah.
Well, I think I can speak for all of us up here when I say that Albany, the council, all of us really are so appreciative of what you and your committee and all of your volunteers have done and continue to do. This is such a special event, and there's always fascinating films and also a lot of really good feeling. It's one of the few places where I actually find myself not minding if I have to stand in a line to buy a ticket because there are so many good feelings around it. Thank you.
I just wanted to add one other thing is we're very proud that we've expanded some of the connection with the local businesses around the theater in both a discount program for food and drink, and we have a new thing this year, a filmmaker lounge, where people can go after the movies and talk with the filmmakers and hang out. So, and try something new.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. You had another card. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Nair Castillo McIntyre. I am here because there is an adaptive physical education teacher in the Albany Unified School District who has served the district for 40 years. And in her capacity as the adaptive PE teacher, she has served many Albany citizens. And because she is, unfortunately, for those of us who benefit from her services, her name is Nancy Henderson, some of you might know her. Because she is retiring, I thought that it would be a great idea to find a way to recognize her. She will probably be recognized along with other fellow retirees by the school board, but I was wondering if there would be a way for a special recognition for her, because she has greatly served many of the citizens of Albany in a way that goes way far and above and beyond the call of duty. She's the type of person that when you ask her to go 1 mile, she'll go 2 or 3 on behalf of the students that she has served for the past 40 years. So if there is any process that I should be aware of that I can submit this formally, I'd greatly appreciate it. Or if you have any questions, I'll answer them to the best of my capacity right now.
Thank you very much. You should email us. We have a joint email. Just send us as much information as you can. It sounds very worthwhile.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to make a comment on a matter that is not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we will move on to council member reports on meetings attended, announcements of future meetings, council member comments, and the city manager report. So with those 4 things all together, we'll start with reports on meetings attended. Who would like to start off? No?
I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah, I attended the Everyone Home Leadership Board last week, along with the United Against Hate Planning Committee meeting. And with the mayor, I participated in a conference call from the White House on infrastructure, which she may want to expand on, but it was interesting. And as a comment, I want to congratulate Albany High School senior KALB Johnson, who won the Richmond Community Foundation Hospitality Scholarship of $5,000. This scholarship is given to one deserving culinary arts, hospitality, and tourism student who resides in the Richmond area. So congratulations to KALB.
Is that it? Thank you. Councilmember Pilch?
I attended a forum with Buffy Wicks and Nancy Skinner and Rob Bonta. I'm not sure if it's the same one you were referring to, Vice Mayor, but it was at the Everyone Home offices in Oakland, forum on affordable housing. It was quite interesting. I stopped by the advisory body training the other night, and finally, we had an EBCE meeting. We have another meeting this week. We're having an extra meeting as our retreat, although it's at the same time as all the other meetings at 6 p.m. down in Hayward. From the EBCE meeting, nothing that new to report, except that we received new information about rate setting from PG&E. So it looks like PG&E is going to set rates twice this calendar year, once in March and once in, I think it's July. EBC will be setting its rates based on those rates and expects to maintain the 1.5% discount to those rates. But the exact amount of the exact rates we don't know yet. We will know, well, it is March now, so we will know soon. And there's also a presentation about REACH codes, which was very interesting. And these are additions to the building codes which either require or incentivize electrification and thus the reduction of greenhouse gases from building energy use. And I think that's it for big items.
Thank you. I attended the gala celebration for the shower program, which is another one of our really incredible volunteer activities with people, wonderful volunteers assisting people experiencing homelessness and people living without otherwise appropriate shower facilities to be able to use the aquatic center for that purpose. Councilmember Pilch and I met as the San Pablo Avenue Subcommittee, and we should have a report for you probably the next time that we meet. Like other people here, I did stop in at the Brown Act, the Brown Act Advisory Committee Information Center session. I unfortunately couldn't stay because that was the same night as the East Bay Regional Park District's Park Advisory Committee, which I attended. As well as the Stop Waste Board. The latter had an interesting item that is significant for Albany, and we have commented about it, the tightening of requirements for removal of organic material from recycling. It's a big issue. It's being dealt with at the state issue, and Stop Waste and its board is putting a lot of attention into that. I participated in the webinar that, well, I guess it wasn't a webinar, but a phone conference that Vice Mayor McQuaid mentioned about infrastructure. There were a lot of good noises coming from the White House, but we take a wait and see whether that will materialize for California in general and Albany in particular. I participated in a webinar with the League of Cities on the regulation of expressive activities in public places, a big issue these days. Another big issue, the Alameda County Transportation Committee, learning that in one piece of very good news, I think that people will be supportive of, under its new leadership, both at the board level and at the executive level, Scott Haggerty, the new board chair, talked about the relationship with the Association of Bay Area Governments and the need for ABAG, which includes small cities, to take the lead on housing issues as opposed to in its relationship with the MTC. So that was positive. And the very best thing I did was I went to the celebration of the 80th anniversary of the Hotsy Totsy. And
Did that as well.
a wonderful, one of our many wonderful businesses, but a business that helped make Albany just a much cooler place than it had been previously.
If you don't remember that, is that a good sign or a bad sign?
Yeah.
I was there for 30 seconds.
How
All
often
right,
do you see searchlights in Albany? That's
Yeah.
quite something.
Searchlights in Albany is always a good sign. No, it's not, she says. Okay. Announcements of future meetings. No, we'll talk about events at the end of this meeting. City manager report.
Quick items. I'd like to welcome 2 new staff members to our finance department, Nick Grish and Nancy Marsh. Nick is our budget analyst, and Nancy is our new account tech receivable. You'll see her at the front counter. Also, a warm thank you to Ann Sue and Jeff Bond for their hard work on the advisory body presentation last Monday. They really went above and beyond to put that together, and we had a fantastic turnout, more than I've seen in many years, so very much appreciate it. And lastly, if you've been driving on Masonic, you've seen some activity at the Albany Loop, finally. We are getting really close to a opening celebration for this art installation, and I just wanted to thank all the staff involved in that. That includes our recreation department, Shelley and Isabel LeDuc, and as well as our public works department most recently for coordinating this landscaping installation. Right now, if you drive by, you see that the temporary fencing is put back up. It's because of this unique grass underneath the artwork, which is a no-mow grass, which needs to take root. But as soon as that's taken root, the fencing will be down and we will have an opening celebration.
Looking forward to that. Okay. Any other comments from any member of the council? All right, then let's...
About the, yes, I would like to second what the city manager said about the Brown Act meeting. That's not
a topic that's generally considered very exciting, but I think the audience was pretty engaged. I happened to be sick, and you didn't see me there because I was back in the inner sanctum in the kitchen sipping hot water and watching the live feed on the screen. But I thought it was the best one that I've ever been to. I've been to a handful of them. So thanks.
And it's viewable on YouTube.
There's one of the usual suspects there who helped out, Jeff Bond.
Yeah.
And there's Ann. So they're the ones who put it together.
And I encourage people to take a look at it. It's posted now on YouTube and the city website. All right, we move on to presentations, and our first presentation tonight will be Carbon-Free Albany. May we have a staff report, please?
Good evening. Community engagement is an important part of our climate action plan, and we found that inspiring individuals to take action to reduce their own carbon footprints has been a challenge, and in an effort to engage the community and potentially change individual behavior, staff identified a program called Community Climate Solutions, which is an interactive web platform that allows users to commit to specific actions to reduce carbon emissions and provides information on programs that support those actions. We've worked with Community Climate Solutions since September to create a new website called Carbon-Free Albany, which serves as an interactive one-stop shop where residents can obtain information and resources to help them reduce carbon emissions, track their progress, and see what their neighbors and other community members are doing to go carbon-free. We launched the platform on January 16th at our Climate Action Plan workshop, and we've been working to promote it through social media, flyers, and partnerships with community groups, which includes a variety of presentations at community meetings. The Community Climate Solutions founder, Lisa Altieri, is here this evening to give an overview of the site and its features, so I'd like to introduce Lisa now.
Sorry, apologies. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation to come and present our program. And thank you for taking the time to hear about it. I apologize. Please ignore the black bar at the top. We just added some admin features and to my account, so I apologize for that. Community Climate Solutions came actually out of our work in our own community. So we have, as Claire mentioned, we've created a platform to help communities engage their residents around climate solutions. And we, where this came from is we participated back in 2007 in an effort in our own backyard. So back in 2007, the city of Palo Alto did their first climate action plan. And one of the first things they did was a little unusual. They actually held a community meeting, and they brought the climate action plan to the community, and they asked for volunteers to help meet goals. And so they asked for folks to volunteer to create some task force to engage different segments of the community. So we had a task force to engage businesses, one for residents, one for schools, and then a few others. So I volunteered to lead the task force to engage residents. And so for 5 years, I spent time with other volunteers working to get folks who lived in our community to learn about the solutions to climate change and what personal actions they could take to help contribute towards our community-wide goals. And so we had a lot of fun, and we did a lot of different projects over about 5 years, but we weren't seeing the deep dive that I knew that we could do. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about where were the barriers, where were our successes, where were the barriers, and where were the opportunities to really expand what we were trying to accomplish. And what we found were there were two things that were very successful One was providing people information. So across the U.S., Yale studies have shown that 70% of Americans are really concerned about climate change and they want to help, but they don't know what to do. And here in our communities in the Bay Area, that percentage is much higher. Most people are concerned, but they really don't know where to start. They don't know what actions they can do. They don't know what the solutions pathway looks like, and they're not sure how to engage. And so we found people in our community were very receptive. They were very excited to have an opportunity to learn about solutions and what they personally could do. So that was successful. But the thing that we found that was most successful was connecting people to work together. So we would have small teams. When we brought people together to work in small teams, we brought people together to work in their existing community groups like a Rotary Club or a school or a faith community. When we brought people into the program in groups, we found that to be the most successful thing that we could do. When people work together, a magical thing happens. They start to encourage each other on, they start to share ideas and resources, and we really found people were taking a lot of action. So what we envisioned was how to make this process easier. So we were working with people, but we found it to be very time-consuming and lengthy process. So we thought that one of the best things that we could do would be to create a platform that helped facilitate this process and make it really simple, easy, and fun for a community to engage residents, bring them in, and help them to work together with their own social networks. So we created this platform, and I'll just walk you through it really quickly here for a second. Oh, okay, great. That's much better. So the way it works is when you first come to the site, if you're not sure if you want to join, most folks usually hit the Why Join button. And what they find here, okay. I'm not sure. Okay, it looks like it's coming around. What they find is a letter from all of you. And staff. And the gist of the letter is that, we're facing challenges, but we have solutions, and there's a lot we can do, and it invites the community to join into this challenge for all of us to take actions to help lower our impact towards our community goals. So one of the things that's really important is that we actually live in a very important moment right now. Close to 40% of U.S. emissions come from basic household activities that we all do every day: electricity use, home heating, transportation, food, and waste. And so the very important thing is that for the first time, we have affordable and accessible alternatives for all 5 of those categories. So right now, people in your community can take actions and lower their impact in those categories 70 to 100%, and at the same time actually save money. This was not the case 5 or 10 years ago. So this is a really important time that we have now, where we have the opportunity for people to engage in a way that's really a win-win situation, where they're not only lowering their impact, but they're also saving money, and they also have the opportunity to help support the local economy through their actions. So it's a positive experience for people who come through the program. And so how it works is once they sign up, we ask them to answer a few questions about their current activities if they'd like. They don't have to fill it out, but if they do, then we can help them to see where their impact is coming from now. So we ask about transportation and a little bit about their energy use. We have a live data link where they can click and they can bring in their PG&E data if they want. That makes it really easy for us to provide them really good analytics. And then after they do that, they can see the actions that they can take. And we have a number of different categories here. So the actions are in the categories of energy efficiency, home energy like water heaters and solar panels, transportation, and food and waste, which are the primary climate categories. And then we also have a water section and a community section. And then folks can choose the actions that are right for them. So we have just under 70 actions on the site, and that really helps people to choose ones that will fit for their households. We really want to meet people where they are. Some actions will work for some people and won't work for others. So we really want to make sure that we provide actions that everyone can find something that works for them. And then each action has a page of information. So here you'll see our analytics a little bit more closely. People can put in information about what they're planning to do. They can immediately see their energy or water savings, and the annual savings they're likely to see on their bill. And then we give them points. But the points are meaningful, so 1 point is equal to 1 pound of CO2 reduced per year or 10 gallons of water. And the analytics are very robust on the site. So when we set up a community, we put in your carbon intensity for your utility, your local energy pricing, your local climate data, and so all the analytics are actually run based on your local parameters. We're actually working right now with Chris Jones at the UC Berkeley Carbon Footprinting Program, Cool Climate, and they vetted our calculator, and he said it was really good. It's one of the best he's seen, and they're giving us a seal of approval to put on our site. So. And actually, we're working with them. They're providing us some data sets to enhance our predictive analytics for those folks that don't want to fill out all the energy profile. So the analytics are really strong, and we track, for every action completed, we track 8 different data points on the back end, so we can provide really good data to the city about what folks are doing in your community at an aggregate level. So for each action, folks can find resources on the action, and they can learn a little bit about the action here. So we want to make sure that if they're interested in doing it, that they have all the information they need to be successful. And then finally, they have a dashboard where they can track their progress. So here at the bottom, they can see if they filled out their energy questions. They can see their current impact in those 5 categories I mentioned. They can see how they rank to others in the community. And they can see the actions that they've signed up to do. And they can see up here, if they take all the actions, how much they can reduce and lower their impact. And at the top, we track their progress, anything they've completed. They can see their points and their savings. They can see their household footprint go down over time. And then the social area is right here. Most important part, our top request on user testing is I want to be ranked to my neighbors. So we put in a baseline average household for your community, and everyone's benchmarked to that. So as someone goes below the average, they can go up in levels. And so folks can feel that achievement of reaching a higher level. And then here we have 3 different ways for folks to work together. We have small teams, which are groups of 5 to 10 households. And we have a team module around that, team dashboard. Folks can work with each other. So this is like friend circles, people they're having a house party, inviting their neighbors over, or inviting their friends over, talking about how this is important, learning about solutions, and then working together as a small group to take action. And the other group component we have is a community group. So community groups are larger. They're Rotary clubs, faith communities, schools, garden clubs, any kind of an interest group, could be an HOA. So any larger group, we have a community group module, and we actually have some really great upgrades coming a week from Friday, and we'll have the ability for the community groups to also have a page to track their progress and work together really closely. There's also a bunch of social posting in throughout the site so that folks can post and chat with each other and share ideas and resources through the site. And then finally, we have a neighborhood as well, so that you can track progress at the neighborhood level. And here you can see, finally, you can track the progress. This is what's already been going on in Albany. And then you can see the neighborhoods, community groups, and teams. So I know Lizzie is working hard to get some additional community groups and teams onboarded and working on the program, on the platform. And then we also have a community area. As I mentioned, there's a lot of opportunity for folks to chat and share through the site, so that there can be a community conversation and they can share the success of what they've completed, or they can talk about actions. So it really creates a community conversation. It makes it a lot easier for folks who are not sure about some of the new tech, like heat pump water heaters and smart power strips, and they can hear their neighbors chatting about it, which helps them feel more comfortable about taking action. So that's kind of an overview of the program, and we're really excited to be working with Albany. I actually lived in the village for 5 years, and so I have a lot of wonderful memories of this community, and really happy to be working with the city. So thank you.
Questions? I lived in University Village for 5 years too, so yeah, I have very many fond memories. 2 questions. Solar power, what if you're a net energy producer of electricity? You feed that into the model somehow?
So we don't. That's a really good question. I don't think that's come up very often. Most people are not a net producer, they're a net they're a net user. So that's something that we could look at in the analytics. It's a great idea. In the questions that we ask people, we only ask about things that generate emissions. And so some people ask, well, I bike. I want to put that on my list of things I do. I said, well, that's wonderful, but we actually don't need to know that because you're not generating carbon. So
yeah, well, you breathe a little harder, so that produces a tiny bit more CO2.
A little bit.
And here's the tough one: flying.
Sorry?
Flying, like international flights.
Yeah, that's in there. Yeah.
Yes.
So the things that we track analytics for are electricity, home heating, transportation, both land and air, food, and waste. Those are the 5 categories where it's really easy to track the numbers. It's very easy to quantify them. And it's also the 5 categories where people have viable, accessible, and affordable alternatives. So we have one action that encourages folks to consider reducing their air travel miles until we have a carbon-free air travel alternative. There's a lot of really smart folks working on some alternative fuels. So that is, really potentially in our future. But to consider reducing your air travel until we get there, and then also to offset if you do have to fly. And it's actually the only action that we allow any offsets at all is for air travel, because it's really the only one that there isn't an alternative. But for the other categories, there are viable alternatives in those 5 areas for people to do. And so it's something where people, if they want to do something, there's something that we can point them to say, yes, you can do this action and you can see your impact go down.
Okay, great, thanks.
Sure.
Are there, people are entering information that could be fairly sensitive. What are the privacy protections?
So that's one of our most important.
Is there any commercial use made of these?
No, 0. Okay. So absolutely, we have a really strong commitment not to share the information at all. And so, in fact, we have a special contract that we require the cities to sign that acknowledge the fact that we won't give the city personal information either. So you don't have access to the user's personal information. We only provide information at the aggregate level. So individuals are protected. So there's a firewall between our user data that the users put in and anybody else. So it's only available and visible to them unless they decide to share some top-level stats. They can choose to do that if they want to share a few top-level stats with others.
Okay, Thank you. Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, and thank you, Claire Griffin. Our next presentation is the School Crossing Guard Services update. Chief Geisenberger.
As you may recall, at the June 18th, 2018 council meeting, council approved an update to the City of Albany operating budget for fiscal year 2018 to 2019, which included the sugar sweetened beverage tax expenditure for fiscal year 2018-2019. The expenditure plan included $124,076 for all city management services, also known as ACMS, to provide crossing guard services for the 2018-2019 school year. At the July 16th, 2018 council meeting, council authorized the city manager to enter into a contract with ACMS to provide crossing guard services for the 2018-2019 school year. At that meeting, the police department advised council we would report back to the council on the program within a year. ACMS began providing crossing guard services in August of 2018. By having ACMS responsible for the crossing guard program, it has removed the police department from the burdensome and time-consuming management requirements of this program, including recruiting, interviewing, hiring, training, scheduling, timesheet processing, and outfitting of the crossing guards. By having ACMS run this program, it allowed our police department staff to focus on law enforcement duties and internal matters related to the operation of a police department versus the management of an ancillary program. Police department staff will occasionally be needed to cover crossings when ACMS substitute crossing guards are unavailable, but we are not charged for those missed crossings. I've spoken with the Albany Unified School District. They're not aware of any issues or complaints related to our transition to ACMS. And as mentioned earlier, the program is funded with the sugar-sweetened beverage tax proceeds, and the police department will be communicating with ACMS about extending the current contract.
Thank you very much. Questions from the council?
Go on.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. What happens now, early on in the program, when I'd be out there doing Blue Glove Crew, the litter pickup that Alan Kane puts together, I noticed on occasion that when there's a need for substitutes, one of our uniformed APD officers would be out there providing those services, which is not real cost effective. So how's that worked out since then? I haven't noticed that problem in the last several weeks. So tell me about that.
So we will still occasionally cover. I would estimate it's probably less than 10% of the crossings that we will cover when they can't get somebody to cover.
But it seems to be happening less.
Yes, in my opinion. We didn't have a way of tracking it beforehand. We didn't put anything in place, but anecdotally, I think it's been significantly less.
Okay.
I wondered, you said that there's been no negative feedback from the school district. Have you reached out to the PTAs or any of the parent groups about how well it's been working for them?
We have not, no.
Okay. I would be curious to see if they're on the same page. Just wondering.
They're usually not shy, but it's always worth
they're usually not shy,
asking.
that's for sure, yeah.
Okay, Vice Mayor McQuaid?
I just wanted to sort of have you, I guess, confirm again. Are you satisfied with the way this is working so far?
I'm pleased with how it's going. It's not 100% perfect because we are still occasionally covering, but it has definitely lessened our burden of running the program, which I think helps us tremendously.
So it's your recommendation we continue with this company?
Yes, absolutely.
Councilmember Pilch?
I just want to reconfirm that there's provisions in the contract for us not to pay when service is not rendered. We only pay for services rendered, so if someone is absent, we don't pay for that time. That's correct.
That is correct,
right.
Yes.
Thank you.
That you do. Do we anticipate the cost to be about the same as it was last year, or do you have any idea yet?
I don't have an idea on that yet.
Okay. And I guess this might be more of a question for Nicole. Are we looking at other ways of financing this other than using the sugar-sweetened beverage tax as the means?
So as you recall, the decision to fund it with the sugar-sweetened beverage tax came because of the changes in the program due to UC Village UC no longer contributing to the program. If we are to look for a different funding source besides the sugar-sweetened beverage tax, we would need to look at our overall budget and identify that funding source. Again, it's about $124,000. It's not impossible, but as you have your study session on sugar-sweetened beverage tax, it certainly is something that we would have up for discussion with the council.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, my comment is, wow, having dealt with this for the past couple of years, rooms full of angry and concerned people, and hearing the depth of concern that we were hearing from the police department about how this was such a terrible match for its not a good use of its limited resources. This just seems like a big win, and appreciate your frankness about successes and where things have to get better. It does seem logical to me that over time it would get better as they cultivate more people who can fill in, and they get to know the community and all these kinds of things. But it just sounds like a very positive situation for us at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we go now to our one public hearing for the evening, proposed zoning code amendments. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, good evening, council members, members of the public. Good evening once again. Before you tonight is the proposed zoning amendments to Section 2024-020 Site Regulations by District Residential Table 2A and Section 2024-020 Site Regulations by District Non-Residential Table 2B. And for members who don't know who I am, I'm the Associate City Planner for Albany. Christopher Tan. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Chris frequents our Planning and Zoning Commission meetings.
So for your review this evening, there are two code amendments for the council to consider. Extensions of non-conforming horizontal walls in the side yards and elimination of the minimum lot area per dwelling unit requirement. As the code reads today, vertical extensions of existing non-conforming walls are permitted subject to a use permit and review by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Existing language, however, regarding horizontal extensions of non-conforming walls are ambiguous in the code today. Therefore, the proposed code amendments clearly state that extensions of existing non-conforming walls, be it in a vertical or a horizontal plane, shall be permitted subject to a use permit and review by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And just a quick timeline as to the code change initiation. On September 26th of 2018, a residential project review prompted the Planning and Zoning Commission to request review of Section 2024-020 of the Albany Municipal Code. On October 24th of last year, the Planning and Zoning Commission adopted Resolution 2803, a resolution of intention to amend the reference code section, site regulations by district residential. And then lastly, on November 14th, the Planning and Zoning Commission adopts Resolution 2018-05, forwarding a recommendation to the City Council to amend Section 2024-020 Site Regulations by District Residential. And this is just a snapshot of the code provision proposed. As you can see, the red code language clearly states that vertical extensions and horizontal extensions would be permitted subject to a use permit and review by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the other code amendment we're looking at tonight is the minimum lot area requirements. The minimum lot area requirement establishes a threshold for land area per dwelling unit for multifamily development here in the city. The standard does not affect usable outdoor space, which is contained in Section 2024-090. This code provision also does not restrict building bulk, mass, or floor area standards defined in that define the building envelope. The standard effectively restricts density and creates inconsistency with maximum density provision, i.e. dwelling units per acre. And as the code reads today, the minimum density required for a mixed-use development is 20 units per acre with a maximum density of 63 units per acre. And so this table just illustrates a real-world application of the code provisions in the code today. So on a pretty standard lot here in Albany, 3,750 square feet, the dwelling units per acre provision would yield a minimum required unit count of 1.72 units with a maximum of 5.04 units. Where the contradiction lies is in the second code provision, the lot area per dwelling unit, which dictates 1,250 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit, or on a 3,750 square foot lot, 3 units total. So as you can see, one code provision would allow up to 5 units, and one code provision limits it to 3. Original intent. It would appear that the original intent of the minimum lot area provision was to incentivize an applicant to consolidate smaller parcels in the city into larger projects. Albany, as many of us know, Albany is a built-out community with high cost real estate. Thus, the opportunities for economically viable lot consolidation are indeed rare. So if lot consolidation is not practical, the effect of the lot area per dwelling unit standard forces a development to reduce the density or build fewer but larger units. Recent project review. A mixed-use residential project was located in the Solano Commercial Zoning District was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission on January 9th of this year. The proposed project density of 4 units did not meet the ratio of 1 unit per 1,250 square feet of lot area, resulting in only 3 units under the current code regulations. However, this did not affect the overall building design as it complies with lot coverage, height, and floor area ratio standards. And how that fits into the housing unit creation on a broader context is that all cities throughout the state of California are under increasing pressure to increase the number of housing units developed. The potential exists for more stringent state legislation that would tie improvement project funding to the number of housing units developed. Thus, furthermore, the recognition that smaller units, even though market rate, would be relatively more affordable than larger units. The proposed amendments before you tonight are a straightforward way to advance the city's mandate to support housing development. And just a quick timeline of the minimum lot area requirements and its initiation. On January 23rd of this year, the Planning and Zoning Commission adopted Resolution 2019-02, a resolution of intention to amend the referenced code sections. And then in February 13th of this year, the Planning and Zoning Commission adopted Resolution 2019-03, forwarding a recommendation to the City Council to amend the reference code sections. Thus, the proposed code amendments would entirely eliminate the minimum lot area per dwelling unit standard and footnote 9, which specifies the unit per land area requirements. And this is a snapshot of the code today with the red line language. You can see at the top column, the top table, there's the maximum density provision, and then at the bottom table, at the top row, the minimum lot area dwelling unit that's proposed to be eliminated. Within that table for the Solano and San Pablo commercial zoning districts is subnote 3, which is shown right here and states that it is the same as the R3 district, see note 9 site regulations, table 2A residential. And then if you go to that table in the code, you'll see this subnote 9, which indicates the lot area requirement per dwelling unit, which is proposed to be removed entirely. The proposed amendments are consistent with the 2023 housing element. Policy 2.7 mixed use states encourage development of rental housing above commercial development along Solano and San Pablo Avenue. And policy 4.1 zoning states ensure that Albany's zoning regulations and permitting requirements continue to accommodate a diverse mix of housing types. And with that, staff recommends that the council introduce ordinance number 2019-03 for first reading, amending the following code sections of the Albany Municipal Code, section 2024-020, site regulations by district residential, table 2A, and section 2024-020, site regulations by district non-residential, table 2B. And with that, staff is happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions from the council? Michael?
Does someone else want to go first this time?
No, you can go first.
All right. Can we go back to the fence issue, please?
The what issue?
The fence issue. It just refers to non-conforming fences. I'm wondering if there could be many reasons, I think, why a fence could be non-conforming. Its location, the materials it's made out of. So, if it's a hazardous, burnable type of wood and it's non-conforming for that reason, do we still get to build it bigger?
Well, this says walls. Is there a difference between the wall and a fence?
Yeah.
Yes, this is pertaining to walls, not fences.
Yeah, so this would be a residential remodel application that would come in, and let's assume, for the sake of conversation, that the homeowner, rather than building vertically, wanted to build horizontally. They would now have the option to do that if they had a non-conforming wall, to continue in the same plane rather than having to move the wall to conform to this standard side yard setback.
This is strictly the wall of a building, not a decorative garden wall or?
Just the wall, yeah. Trellises, fences, any sort of lattice work, that would not be applicable under this code provision.
Okay, now I know there's issues with us building ADUs about, fire safety issues and how close you can get to the site boundary and the different types of walls that are permitted as you get closer. So if you have hypothetically, like my backyard, an existing ADU and and it doesn't conform to the fire safety standards because it's not set back far enough from, say, the property boundary, you can now build it bigger?
But you would, for whatever expansion you pursue, you would have to do fire rating. So let's say, you had, we've had this happen a couple times now, an existing structure in the backyard that the property owner is simply interested in converting into an ADU without significant construction, but it may have a 2-foot setback where a 3-foot setback would be required. They're still required to do the fire rating. They're restricted on prohibition of no window openings, so the same standards still apply.
So they would have to upgrade the wall?
Yes.
Removing a window, hypothetically, or?
Yeah, they would have to remove a window and also do fire rating.
Fire rating means more fireproof insulation, or?
Yeah, so it's a 1-hour wall, so that means that the wall itself is actually thicker, so that if a fire were to occur within the structure, it would have to burn through that wall pretty hard in order to spread to an adjacent property.
Okay. Now, can we go to the end again with the lot size issues? For example, again, to use my own property as an example, I have one of those 37.5 by 100-foot lots. Now, does this apply at all to R1 neighborhoods, or does it only apply to mixed-use neighborhoods?
No, this only applies to the Solano commercial and the San Pablo commercial zoning districts.
And also R3, so the higher density.
Right, so near the R3 is near El Cerrito Plaza, and
correct.
There's another bit of it down. That's okay, it doesn't matter. Well, there are cases where people do buy the lot next door to them. There's one on the corner of Santa Fe and Thousand Oaks, I believe.
Yes.
People bought the lot next to them and created an Orinda-style house and garden. I won't say anything more than that. And so in the situation like that, how does this, if they were in the future, someone was going to buy now the double lot, would they be allowed to put in the maximum number of rental units? How is that going to work?
It would be determined by the underlying zoning district. So in that particular scenario, since that's R1, that property owner, had they elected to maintain that structure or rebuild, they would be limited to a single-family dwelling and an accessory dwelling unit.
Well, you can sort of tell where I'm going, because this is going to be a big issue going forward with, Scott Wiener's bills and whatnot. What stops a lot of big structures getting built? First of all, that property doesn't change hands very fast. But now we have these quirky lots that are sort of double lots in R1 neighborhoods, and you still can't build McMansions on them because our existing R1 zoning still applies, except perhaps if they're within their zone for transit, right? But that's a story for another night.
Yeah. I mean, in a multifamily zoning district, and actually we can, I think, emphasize the recent example that we had this project on Masonic, you achieve the building form based on the height, the floor area ratio, lot coverage, very strict development standards. And in that particular case, the property owner was interested in pursuing 4 rental apartment units, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom each. But because of this provision, he was limited to 3 units, which resulted in exactly the same building in terms of the footprint, the bulk, the mass, the aesthetics, only he could do 2 2-bedroom units and 1 4-bedroom unit. And
Yeah. So this project, that was my final question, this project that sort of triggered this change is actually going forward and something is being built?
It received approval for 3 units.
Correct, yeah.
Oh, so but now they can get 4 units?
If this were to go through, that they could amend their application and apply to have a 4th unit on site.
And this is on Solano Ave?
It's on Masonic.
Masonic.
In the Solano Commercial District. So it's just wraps around past the brick building at the southwest corner.
Okay, I'll look for it next time I'm there. Thanks, I'm done.
Any questions?
I do. These all seem very logical, both of these proposals. But I was a little curious about, you thought that the minimum lot area thing was originally designed for, to encourage lot consolidation. Why did you think that? I mean, was there something that had happened at some point that was?
So there's, Jeff had a theory on this, and then Doug Donaldson on our planning commission, who was on the zoning code update process. He was involved in that in 2004, had the same recollection that that was the intent. I'm not quite sure the origins. I can tell you that provision in particular goes back to 1978 when.
Well, I was curious as to, because there's a lot of in our code that it seems to me more along the lines of discouraging more units than it does about lot consolidation. But I guess the backup question, which I'm really more interested in, is there anything that we have that, other than possibly this, that was encouraging lot consolidation in our codes now? And I mean, this is a little bit of a side agenda to what we're doing tonight, but to my mind, that would be a very good thing to do, particularly along Solano Avenue and possibly San Pablo, in order to encourage the kind of development we might all like to see. And any speculation on things that we might do, add to a code, or has this ever come up and?
We do have a housing element policy that's intended to, to craft regulations around lot consolidation. Thus far, we haven't crafted anything within that policy recommendation, but it has been something that's been thought about and is contained in the current element.
Yeah, I mean, it does occur to me that at some point, if the more we're looking at all these elements of our housing, of our codes to encourage housing, something that we could do to encourage a lot of these little lots that it seems likely that it'd be very difficult to develop, but somehow encourage lot consolidation. And I don't know if that's tax breaks or breaks on fees or some other requirement, but that would be a good thing.
Yeah, I think to the extent we could, at a municipal level, I think there could be some flexibility on fees. I think the bigger issue that we see is just kind of the market demands for land costs in Albany being, something that would prevent that from.
Okay. Well, it's sort of a side thought, but basically, I'm fine with these regulations. It makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. Councilmember Pilch, any questions?
Yes. So, I'm curious. Are the developers of the 3-unit complex, are they interested in going to 4 units?
They very much are.
Okay, great. about the extension of the non-conforming walls. So are you saying that if there's a non-conforming wall being one that's would be too far into a setback? Would that be the nonconformity or something else?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So we're saying that with a hearing, I guess, or with either administrative approval or with a hearing at Planning and Zoning, someone could choose to continue to have that non-conforming wall or ask for it to be moved even further into the setback with a use permit. Mm-hmm. And if they're successful at that process, they can have that.
That's correct. And to show you how closely we look at this, the particular application that triggered this call for review by the Planning and Zoning Commission was off by
2 inches.
I don't, was it even that? It might have been less than an
Maybe
inch.
less than that, yeah.
It was a very modest amount, and I think when certainly when the property owner looked at the language of the code, they thought there was room for flexibility. I also got the impression too that the construction associated with moving something in 2 inches rather than continuing it creates a little, adds some cost, and then it also, it creates a little jog in the interior programming as well. And that was a situation where there weren't the issues with fire rating or restrictions. It was still 3 feet from the side yard property line.
Okay.
But it didn't meet the required side yard setback based on the property width.
Okay, so is the intention of this to just be more relaxed about small discrepancies, or to evaluate more to evaluate on a case-by-case basis whether or not a nonconformity makes sense in a particular situation?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I don't want to have a predetermined outcome on this, but I think in the situations where this has come up, we've looked at applications where the wall is off by a matter of inches, and creates these sort of inconsistencies in the building form. If it's a situation where it's on the property line, or there may be issues with fire rating, maybe it would still be up to the discretion of the Planning Commission, but at that point, the homeowner too may also want to have a wall that allows them to not be fire rated and to provide them with some window openings and natural light.
Mm-hmm. And does the use permit can the use permit be done ministerially, or does it have to go to the Planning and Zoning?
It will have to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
All right, great. I think that's it for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor McQuaid, any questions? I have no questions. Before we move to comments, let's clarify our procedure here. This is a first reading, so what you're looking for is input from the council on anything that they would want to see changed before a second reading. We don't actually vote at this stage. We do.
Yes,
we
you'd
do.
be voting
Okay.
to introduce the ordinance at first reading. And a second reading, you'd vote again to adopt the ordinance.
But at this point, what's most crucial, I think, is for people to voice if they're going to be looking for, if they see problems that would prevent this from being adopted at a second reading. Comments? Would you like to start, Councilmember Barnes?
I think it's fine. I think this is housekeeping. I don't have any problem with it. So yeah, I'll vote yes.
Yeah, as I said, I think it's also fine. The extension of a non-conforming wall, as I read it, if you have a non-conforming wall, you can extend it, but you can't go further into the setback.
That's right.
You can only go on a straight line. So it did occur to me that occasionally, I'm sure there are homes that have been built that are slightly askew to the property line, and there'll be some argument somewhere along the line saying, well, I only want to go an extra 6 inches in, and that will have to be resolved. But anyway, given that it takes a use permit and then a planning and zoning review, I shouldn't see there'd be a problem. And the getting rid of that minimum lot size per unit makes perfect sense as far as I can see.
Councilmember Pilch, any comments?
Do it. Sounds good.
Very good. Vice Mayor McQuaid. Okay, my only comment is going to be. I looked this over, was extremely impressed with the skill and the obvious hard work that went into doing this. I want to compliment the staff, and even though they're not here to hear it, I want to compliment the people who volunteer to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the work that they do going through all this. I'm certainly supportive. So would the city clerk call the roll?
Can I make a motion?
Oh, goodness. Thank you.
So moved.
You can tell I'm eager.
Okay, that was your motion. I'll second.
And this is a motion to introduce the resolution for a first reading.
Councilmember Barnes?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilch?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McQuay?
Yes.
Mayor Nason?
Yes. Okay, thank you. We have no unfinished business tonight. We have no new business tonight. So we are down to other business, announcement of events, and future agenda items. Does anyone have other business? Does anyone have events? I have an event. I want to invite everyone to come on Sunday, March 10th, this coming Sunday at 2 p.m. To the Albany Library. I will be making a presentation to the Albany Historical Society, not on behalf of this body, but just my own personal research into history of the statue at the heart of Albany, the Shrine of Freedom torch at the corner of, on the median actually, of Key Route at Solano Avenue. And future agenda items. Then the next city council meeting will be on March 18th, and we are adjourned.